wanted to create a place for women journeying with cancer to be inspired and to shake up the way we look at cancer so we can activate the power of our minds to heal us from the inside. Welcome to this series, Rethinking Cancer. I'm Cindy Scott, two-time cancer thriver and author of the Healing Journal. This series is sponsored by Evolving Women, an online healing sanctuary for women journeying with cancer. You can find them at evolvingwomen.co. I am thrilled to have Kathy Ashton here with me today. Let me tell you a little bit about this very special lady before we dive into our interview. Cathy is a medicinal nutritionist. She is a breast cancer thriver, and she is a mum and grandmother. She is an amazing woman who runs a business called Flourish, Live Naturally. She runs all sorts of programs to help us to eat well and to thrive based on good nutrition. And I personally have done her program a couple of times now. I'm a big fan and absolutely love her work. Welcome, Cathy.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolute pleasure to have you here. And I know that your insights, experience, and wisdom are going to be so valuable to others along the way. So I really wanted to have you here today, particularly because you are a breast cancer thriver yourself, and it's actually shaped your journey going forward. So I thought that might be a really good place to start, to tell us a little bit about your health journey and how it's brought you to now.
Goodness me, my health journey is huge. How far do you want me to go back? So my personal health journey, let's go back one step. How I've become a medicinal nutritionist is because of my husband's health journey. Yeah. So he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis back in 2003, which led me to go to university to study to become a medicinal nutritionist, to be able to help him using diet, because he was pretty sick of taking the medications. So he wanted to do that.
And not to mention the cost of the medications as well. We're getting quite cost prohibitive too, yeah?
Yeah, $1,300 a month he was costing us in supplements.
Amazing. And
it was crazy. So it was either we had to do something or he had to go. We had to ship him out. I need to get a cheaper model. So that led me down the road of becoming a medicinal nutritionist. And the biggest reason for that is that years earlier to his diagnosis, I'd been diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And I had put that into remission by using food, by changing my diet. So then he was like, surely to goodness, there's more to this story and I need to change my diet for MS. And, you know, that led us down the rabbit hole. So we dived in and we came out the other side with me as a medicinal nutritionist. And then lo and behold, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So, which was in 2014. That was my journey.
So you were already at this stage, your husband had MS, you were treating him through diet and having great success with that. And you were diagnosed with breast cancer yourself. So I'm curious to know, did you go down the mainstream sort of treatment path, or did you sort of question things a little bit and think, hang on, maybe I have a little bit of control here myself to influence outcomes through your diet?
Bit of both. As we all know, when you get that diagnosis, you sit there in front of the doctor and they say, oh, you've got breast cancer. Your life gets turned upside down.
Yes.
And you get a very short window before everyone's jumping on top of you, telling you what you need to do for it.
Do this, do that.
Do this, you need to do that. Otherwise, you're going to die, basically.
Yeah.
You need to do this, you need to do this, you need to have this treatment, you need to do that treatment. So I think for the first couple of days, we were very much deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
You know,
very natural response.
Mortality being threatened. It was like, no, what's going on? We had very, very good surgeon. Yeah, my second opinion surgeons were very, very understanding and knew where I came from a dietary perspective. And they were like, okay, well, we can do, they honored the way I thought about everything. and how I wanted to use diet and all of these sorts of things. But they also, I wasn't completely, I don't want to say silly in amongst it all. I decided to have a double mastectomy.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave their arguments for that. And I thought there's no way just using diet was going to work for me. So I needed to do more to it, because the right breast was completely riddled with cancer. So it was kind of like, okay, well, what are you going to do now? So it was take it off. And then it was like, well, let's take the other one off as well. And then I made the decision that I wouldn't do any other treatment. So my surgeons were amazing. She says, I pretty much flayed me, took out every single skerrick of breast tissue that they could see anywhere. And then from there I basically just had to heal and do all of those sorts of things. So I didn't have radiotherapy and I didn't have chemotherapy. Mm-hmm. And as far as tamoxifen was concerned, I've used flaxseed instead of going down that road either. So that's basically what I've done.
You sort of did a little bit of both, hey? So a bit of traditional sort of Western medicine and a little bit of, hang on, I'm going to take matters into my own hands. Tell us a little bit about, the tamoxifen and choosing flax seeds in place of that. Tell us a bit about that.
So there's some really good research out there that actually shows, so being a nutritionist, and my degree is in nutritional medicine. Mm-hmm. So I look at disease processes and look at the research on how food impacts on those disease processes. So when you're looking at cancer, especially, you look at the drugs that people get put on afterwards. And then it was kind of like, well, is there an alternative as far as food's concerned that doesn't have a massive amount of side effects? Mm-hmm. And if the research and the evidence supports it, well, then why wouldn't you choose that? So for me, the research showed that 3 tablespoons of flaxseed on a daily basis, and it's quite easy to find on the internet. You can just go in and type tamoxifen versus flaxseed, and up will come all of these beautiful studies. If you're interested and want to take that to your oncologist and say, hey, can you explain this? Can I do that? That 3 tablespoons of flaxseed on a daily basis is the equivalent and completely the same as using tamoxifen.
I know.
So
I was told, 5 years tamoxifen, and I'm like, really? I've got to be attached to a drug for the next 5 years with those horrendous side effects? What would be a natural alternative? And fortunately, you came across my path very early in that piece. I'd already said no to tamoxifen, and my oncologist was like shaking his head going, you're not taking my advice. What do you mean? But I've been taking my flax seeds, I ground them up and I have them on my cereal in the morning, or I have them in a smoothie, which I did today. Absolutely, going down that path and choosing to get those supplements and nutrients.
It's nowhere near as easy, right, as taking a tamoxifen first thing in the morning and you're done, right? You've got to mill your flaxseed, you've got to put it on things, and you've got to, and a lot of the time what they say is that women won't do that. So Western medicine, it's fantastic, but it loves to make assumptions on the people that it's got and put us all in the same box.
Yeah.
It's tamoxifen now is up to 10 years they're recommending.
Yes. Yeah. I think mine was 5 to 10 years. And I'm
mine was 5.
I really don't know that I want to have a drug for that long. So why do I want to be that dependent on something for that long? So
it made no sense. Absolutely no sense. And for me, I was blessed, even though the breast was riddled, there was none in my lymph nodes or anything like that. So it made no sense for me why I should take a drug that was going to have these massive amount of side effects when I can use food. So because I now classify myself as a cancer producer, like I make cancer because I've done it once. So I'm a bit like, am I going to do it again?
And that's a very real fear for all of us that have cancer.
Yeah, isn't it? And you're worrying about, is it going to come back here or is it going to come back there? And the moment you get that ache or that pain, you're going, What is it?
What is it? Yeah. And I guess what I love about the work that you're doing is you're really looking at the science, the evidence behind what food should we be eating and should we not be eating. So I would love for you to share with us a little bit about what are the foods that you've discovered are supporting the cancer production in people's bodies? Because I'm a 2-time survivor now of cancer, and I want to know, what food should I be avoiding? What should I be steering clear of to really have the best odds of survival going forward? I mean, ultimately, that's the thing that we fear the most, is death and recurrence of cancer coming back. So it's like, what do we need to be avoiding to actually make sure that we put ourselves in the best stead to stay healthy and vibrant going forward?
Yeah, exactly. So Cindy, that's exactly what I did. Is I looked at my diet prior to my cancer diagnosis, which was still pretty good. You know, I was working as a medicinal nutritionist, so it was still pretty good. And it was vegetarian, but it wasn't full on 100% whole food plant-based. And what I discovered is that cancer likes to grow in you can feed it really well. So you can feed it, it needs to get a blood supply to start off with. So those cells need to get a blood supply to be able to grow, to turn into tumors and these things. So what foods are it's called angiogenesis. So what foods are anti-angiogenic? In other words, what foods will stop that cancer cell from getting a blood supply and nutrients to feed and proliferate? So it was kind of, well, what foods do that? And unfortunately, it came down to all of the animal products. So your meat and your dairy and even fish, because people often say to me, but surely fish doesn't fit into that category.
Healthy, I have fish, you know.
But unfortunately, it's not, because it still will allow, it's not anti-angiogenic, it is angiogenic. In other words, it will allow this to happen, because animal products contain a factor called IGF-1, insulin growth factor number 1. And the magic word in that is growth. So insulin growth factor, it allows things to grow. And you only find it when you're actually talking about animal products. So from where I sit, it made 100% sense not to eat any of these things. Because if I don't put it in my body and allow that to happen, and I eat an anti-inflammatory diet, because again, inflammation is the driver of all diseases and the driver of cancer, all of these, if I don't eat that, then potentially it's going to be fine. I'm not going to produce it.
Okay, so number 1 is meat products. So it could be meat, dairy, even fish. So they are products that actually help to feed cancer cells growing in our body.
Yeah.
It's
100%.
Are there any other foods that are known to feed cancer?
No, it's anything out of the animal world.
Okay.
So there's nothing in the plant world that produces cancer. There's everything in the plant world is anti-cancer producing, if you like. It's alkalinizing, it's all of these beautiful things. So it doesn't allow, if we hope, stress. We're not talking about stress in this, right? We're just talking about food. So
today's program just about food.
Yeah, we're just talking about food. So from a food perspective, everything in the plant world is what you can eat, and things in the animal kingdom you can't. Okay, there's a little bit of controversy around that as far as, say, grains are concerned, and but I personally don't find the science behind the grain argument in cancer to be all that significant. So I give everybody who follows me or comes to work with me, I allow them to have their grains, because unless we don't get the right, sometimes I might take it out, but I generally don't. Depends on the story, but generally they're in there because they're full of B vitamins, and we need B vitamins for energy and all sorts of other things, for making other biochemical pathways work. So I like all of those sorts of things. Yeah.
So what about other things like white sugar, white flour, alcohol? Like you hear stories and narrative about these things as well in relation to cancer. So what are your, what's your opinion around those things?
Anything processed, I say stay away from. You need whole foods.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't need processed foods because they come with processed sugar is not a natural occurring thing in the plant world anyway, because it's all been chemically produced and it's not healthy for us. So, but a little bit of sugar. So say you were making your own cookies at home and you wanted to use a little bit of brown organic sugar, for instance, in it. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Depends on your cancer and depends on how aggressive it is. Because if it's seriously aggressive, then I would say take out sugar, because sugar is a driver of cancer. But a little bit in a little bit of a cake is not so bad. But if you're having refined foods that are in the supermarket and you're going to buy packet foods, they're full of, high fructose corn syrup and all of these sorts of things, and you just don't want them. They're not a whole food. Your body doesn't know what to do with them, and they come with preservatives and colorings and a whole lot of other things that your body doesn't know what to do with.
Yeah, a whole bunch of letters and numbers and
letters and numbers. So why confuse it? It's already confused. It's already got cellular dysfunction because it's growing cancer. So what do we do about that? We stay away from it. Eat things that are natural and naturally occurring. Like if you want something sweet, eat a date. Mm-hmm. The fiber in it it's sweet, but the fiber in it will dictate how much of that sweetness you have and things like that. So sugar, not good. Alcohol, yeah. If you've got any form of cancer, you shouldn't touch alcohol, simply because it's a poison in itself. And so your liver has to learn how to get rid of it, but it's already fighting all of these other things. And your gut microbiome don't like it. That makes them all wonky too, makes us wonky, makes them wonky. And then
What is gut microbiome?
So you get bugs. So in your large bowel is your gut microbiome. It's kind of, think about it as there's trillions of them. There's way more of them than there are of you. And what their job is to do is to keep you healthy. Mm-hmm. So this whole ecosystem of little guys down there that are going to keep you healthy. Mm-hmm. And over time and distance, the more we are learning about them, we're understanding that their roles that they play in keeping us healthy. They keep us happy. They help make serotonin. They keep us happy. They have all those good feel-good hormones. They help to regulate those. They drive inflammation. They're a major driver of inflammation. Inflammation is a driver of disease processes. So the other thing that they do is the chemotherapy that we take along when we've got cancer as well, is it wipes them out.
Yeah.
So if you're wiping them out, how can you think to get healthy? It teaches your immune system how to act and how to behave. So if you're wiping them out with chemotherapy, they're not teaching your immune system. They allow your immune system to run a bit wild or not to work at all, or gives you, all sorts of other issues. It's just, we got to keep them healthy, really, really healthy. And especially if you are having chemotherapy, it's super important to think, how am I keeping my gut microbiome healthy when this poison medication is also wiping them out? And you have to look at the foods that they like to eat. What they love to eat are plants, and in particular potatoes.
Potatoes. That's one thing that I've really shifted in my diet since I've been doing work with you, is eating more potatoes. And gosh, my tummy loves them. So nourishing. They're so beautiful to eat. So there's something, I think historically I've just gone, oh no, they make you fat, carbohydrates, whatever. But now I just adore them. I really just allow them in my diet, and hubby's very happy with them as well.
It's super fantastic. The thing that makes them fattening is when we put oils and fat onto them. So we put cheese and dairy and butter and all of those things that are angiogenic and not anti-angiogenic, right? But the good old potato by itself is fabulous. So I know one of the questions you've got down here is that what foods shouldn't we be eating? what makes me cringe and quite distressed is when I see a cancer patient and they say they've been told they can eat anything because they've got to keep their calories up, right?
Yeah.
So, but you can eat anything, go away and eat anything. So you say, can I have McDonald's on the way home? Or can I eat yogurt? Or can I have ice cream? And the answer usually is yes. Why? That doesn't make any sense to tell someone who's fighting cancer to go and eat animal products, which are only going to make it worse.
Yeah.
So my thing is eat potatoes. Keep your gut microbiome healthy. So yeah, we've got this medication that's coming in and they're having a tough time with it. Why not feed them so they can at least try and survive whilst you're having this treatment? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know it's a real bugbear for me because in my research, I actually really struggled when I was in chemo. And like, as you said, my microbiome was wiped out and my whole digestive system, many systems actually were quite wiped out by chemo. But yeah. I went in search of answers. I was trying to find nutritionists, dietitians, find books and do reading on the internet. What should I be eating? And I'd speak to my oncologist. And basically what it came up with was, they'd encourage you to have cookies or, comfort foods that would actually just help you get through it rather than actually foods that support and nourish you.
That's right.
And I started to pay attention even when I would go to my cancer clinic where I had my infusions for chemo and Herceptin. And basically the menu was, what cake or slice or cheese plate would you like? And I actually spoke to the lady that heads the place there, heads it up. And I said, do you realize that these foods are actually feeding cancer? And they're like, oh, no, we don't agree with that. No. And so in my entire 1.5-year journey of having infusions, that diet remained the same. The menu there continued to serve up, animal products and sugary foods. And I was like, wow, like they even had an opportunity to start exploring that and changing it up, and they chose not to. So real bugbear for me that even in place,
when you have a PET scan or any of these scans to see what it is, that's sugar.
It's a sugar pill that you take to light up your body. Yeah, I had that too. Like just crazy. They know that cancer actually is fed by sugar.
So why would you include it? It's not by, if you say, because a lot of people get really worried and say, well, can I have fruit? Can I eat fruit, which has got, everybody thinks is very sugary. Can I do that? The answer is yes, because your body knows what to do with it. And all those sugars, it's going to, it's attached to fiber. So it's just not like this pure sugar. Admittedly, look, you might want to be careful with dates because they are really high up there. They're almost 100% glucose. So you do want to be a little bit careful.
Nature's chocolate, I call them.
Nature's chocolate, nature's caramel, I think. But but you don't want to be eating those every day and lots of them. But the fiber in them will still let your body ship it out the back door if it doesn't need it. Does that make sense? And they'll use it directly for energy. So, one of the things that happens when you're having all of these cancer treatments is you've got no energy. So, yeah, if you eat natural sugars such as fruits and vegetables, you are going to find that energy level will come up.
Yeah.
And then if what your body doesn't use, it will ship it out your back door. But we should not be eating cookies and ice cream and cheese and
them. Like, I mean, where have we learned societally? We've been conditioned that these are treats, like, oh, let's go and have an ice cream or have a piece of cake or a cookie or whatever. Like, we've been brainwashed to think these are treats and there's something nice to have. And somewhere along the line that it's in some way good for you to be having these things as a special thing. When really it's quite the opposite.
Oh, look, it goes back to programming, doesn't it? For years and generations past, your mother said, if you don't eat all your main course, you don't get dessert. Yeah. If you did something in the car, one of my mother's threats was, there'll be no dessert for you for tonight.
Yeah, it was leverage, wasn't it?
It was really leverage. Whenever we went out, it was like the treat was, we'll stop and have an ice cream.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
So
It's the feel good.
it feels good. It goes straight up into the reward system. It feeds the dopamine receptors in your brain and you feel happy.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of going, hey, what will do light up just as easily is eat a potato. It goes straight up into the reward system and makes you feel really good. Yeah. So it's one of those, it's a real catch-22 on where did all of this go. The biggest issue you've got with cancer, and I see this a lot, is that when I say to everybody, hey, you can't eat, don't eat, and it's don't eat animal products, don't eat dairy, because of the IGF-1, and you want to be anti-angiogenic and all of these sorts of things. So now what I've done is I've restricted you. Cancer in itself is such a traumatic experience. And now I'm also taking away everything that makes you feel good, all the food.
Familiar.
Right? So it becomes this even stronger battle, like, oh goodness, my life's completely over. You know, I've got nothing I can enjoy from a food perspective. But it's not true. If you actually flip it and rethink it about, okay, well, these foods are only going to feed the cancer. What can I get that's just as yummy in the plant-based world? And there's dozens of beautiful things that you can actually have.
Well, I think it's reframing the way we look at it. It's like, do you actually want to support and nourish your body to actually be vibrant and well and recover from cancer?
Yeah.
Or do you want to persist with the ways that have actually got you sick in the first place?
Yeah. So my husband, who's also now a medicinal nutritionist, so I sent him back to uni to study. We often say you eat yourself into a disease, you eat yourself out of it, and then you'll eat yourself back into it.
Love it. So I'm really curious now, Cathy, we've talked about what to be avoiding. Are there particular foods, and I know you're going to say whole foods, plant-based, but are there particular foods that are known to be cancer fighting? So like if you have cancer or you're, fearful that you might have a recurrence of cancer, what are some of the best foods that we can be eating to ensure that we don't?
So it varies on the cancer. So some things are better than nothing, but your biggest anti-cancer where there's good evidence to support it is turmeric.
Right.
You need an evidence-based turmeric, a therapeutic dose of turmeric. So like we produce it, our anti-inflammatory blend, which is 100% whole food plant-based, but it's based around turmeric. So this little baby here is what I thoroughly recommend everybody does. And from a cancer perspective, if it's anywhere from probably taking it 3 to 4 times a day. So if you're in the middle of fighting it all, you want as much turmeric on board as you possibly can, but it can't be the turmeric that you buy at the supermarket. There's no therapeutic goodness to it.
As in, you mean the powder or like raw? Like we can get it at the market where it's like a tuber.
Yeah, you can get it like that. You need a piece about this long every day. And then, it's a lot of turmeric, right? When you buy it like that, you're better off getting it like we have. And then you just put a scoop of it every day, one for breakfast, one for lunch, one for dinner. And that makes a huge difference to being able to fight it, the size of the tumor, all of these sorts of things. I've seen incredible results using that. Then if you've got a blood cancer, for instance, then you would be looking at beetroot and doing beetroot juices. You want as many greens as you possibly can in your daily diet, no matter what sort of cancer you have, because that way you're really nurturing your body with all of the goodness that goes with it, and those sulfurs in those vegetables. So things like cabbage and broccoli. Broccoli is an amazing anti-cancer, has incredible anti-cancer properties involved in it. So lots and lots of broccoli, a head of broccoli a day if you've got an aggressive cancer. Yeah, I know. And the thing is that you need to steam it. It can't be raw. because you need to get all of those nutrients out of it. So if you steamed it and then you just snack on broccoli all day long, which is it's tough when you've got cancer, right? And you're going through the treatment, you don't feel like eating broccoli.
Eating a head of broccoli every day. What about the little microgreens, the broccoli microgreens? That's all right.
The broccoli shots and things that you can see from people, and microgreens, absolutely. The more greens in your diet during your treatment plan or even afterwards, the better your body will cope with everything.
Yeah.
Right. So we go, okay, we've got breast cancer, so we're only going to, everything comes around here. But the chemo, yes, is affecting the breast cancer, but it's affecting every other cell within your body. Everything's being affected. So if you can then support your body systems with beautiful nutrition, lots of green leafy vegetables, lots of turmeric and turmeric based drinks like ours is, and then beetroot for helping your blood and helping your liver. Your liver needs a lot of support, right? A lot of support. Yeah, especially with chemo.
Yeah.
So lemon, really good for that. And you will find, like, we have a lot of people who do buy our products who have cancer, and they take it to their oncologists and they go, yeah, this is nothing but food, so you're okay with it. As opposed to when you go and buy other supplements and there's a whole lot of other things in there, you want to be really careful. You don't want to be doing that.
For sure. I know, Cathy, for me, when I was going through cancer treatment, I didn't meet you until after I was finished, unfortunately. I did struggle to find someone like yourself who could support me and tell me what I should and shouldn't be eating. So I'm wondering how you support cancer patients, because I know that you do have quite a number of people that you're working with. So how do you support cancer patients?
So I come up with programs. So we give them a dietary plan.
So you work with them one-to-one, and you work out what they need.
Work with them one-to-one, and working out. We give everybody our products, so which is a prebiotic. So you don't want a probiotic, you want a prebiotic. So you need to feed the gut microbiome, like with potatoes and all those sort of things. You also need to help the liver and support your liver, and then you need an anti-inflammatory, which is our turmeric blend. So everybody goes onto our supplements, and then I give them a dietary plan, because when I say to you, I want you to be whole food plant-based, right? Or vegan, that terrible word. Everybody goes, what is that, and how do I do that?
Where do I start? I know that was definitely me, for sure.
So we give programs that do this, and then it's the other way we support them at Flourish. The other way we support them is if we do a program, we work together on having weekly Skype, or what is this called? Weekly Zoom meetings, where we can get into the psyche of it all.
Yeah.
And because a lot of those terrible words like deprivation, I feel deprived, I feel, all of those, depressed because I've got all these things in. And now you're telling me I can't eat a chocolate cake or a Mars bar, which is my favorite thing. And my oncologist has said I can. Hey?
You've cut my throat. What do you mean I can't eat those things? Yeah.
So how can we support you nutritionally? Because if you're losing an enormous amount of weight, right, which happens a lot, if we're losing a lot of weight, where is that nutrition coming from that is replacing it? And how can I support it through? So things like that. And everyone is slightly different. So this is why we work on a one-on-one basis, because everybody sees it differently. And I have to tweak program. You might say, I had that particular recipe and my gut really reacted. So I do a lot of tweaking and changing and doing things like that. So that's kind of how we support everybody.
So how would someone find you, Cathy? How do they find Flourish?
Well, they can go to the website, which is www.flourishln.com.au, and the LN is for live naturally. So flourishln.com.au, or they can send me an email, which is Cathy@flourishln.com.au. So, and then you just introduce yourself, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then we do a consult and we go from there. And we can work, so people can work I can work really, really closely with you, or at least just give you a program for you to start with, and then off you go. And then when you need me, you can talk to me and email me and do all of these sorts of things. Our role at Flourish is to support people. It's what we want to do more than anything else in the world. So I try and make myself available to everybody who asks for help, and help them in whatever capacity that they need it.
I know for me personally, when I first met you and you said, oh, you need to go whole foods, plant-based. And I'm like, what on earth does that mean? Like, I think it conjures up an idea, but I'm like, I had no steps on how to actually do that. So doing your cleanse program for someone who's really keen to actually start making those steps, but don't know how to do it, needs some structure, needs some recipes.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant program where you feel amazing. You feel so alive. Your gut feels happy. There's no inflammation. There's no glugginess, you get clearer thinking. So, I'm a major fan, big fan of the cleanse program, particularly for those people who are looking for steps on how to actually make that transition. Like, for me, I grew up with meat and 3 veg. My mum loved making roasts, and I've never really liked them, but that was what I was grown up with. And I didn't really want to cook that way, but I really didn't know how to cook a different way. So in a way, your program shows us that way.
Yeah. Well, that's the little program. So that's the easy way to do it. It's a 21-day cleanse program. It's on now. We've actually got it. It's already started for March. The next one won't be till May. And they're 21 days. And that's where you get that real taste of how do I go whole food, plant-based, oil-free, gluten-free, dairy-free. So gluten is another thing. You have to ditch the gluten because it will open the tight gap junctions within the gut. So it opens those tight gap junctions, causing inflammation within the gut. And then the immune system can become overreactive. And now you're getting all sorts of other issues going on. So, anybody who's got cancer should be gluten-free. It's just better for your body if you are, and it's not insulting the gut every time you have it. So gluten-free is really important, and that 21 days is gluten-free, oil-free, and dairy-free. And it's got 4 master classes in it. It's got all sorts of good things in it. It actually includes all 3 of the supplements. It's a really cheap way of working with us. And it's a nice way, it's a nice introduction to actually start. And then if you really like it, you go, oh, okay, what's next? And work with me personally, or do whatever you need to do. But it's well supported.
And I think for anyone listening who goes, oh my gosh, that sounds horrible. Like, what on earth would you be eating? What would be left once you've taken all those things out? But I can assure you, the recipes are amazing. You don't feel like you're missing out on anything. You feel so nourished and sustained through the whole 21 days. In fact, I've actually changed the way that I eat and I live based on doing that program twice now. So love the recipes. Everything's so flavorful. Every recipe is beautiful. And I'm addicted to the berry chocolate smoothie, I must admit. I love that one. So lots of super yummy recipes. So for those listening, it is such a beautiful program that is yummy, tastes great, and really good for your body. So it makes you feel so alive and vibrant.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about, right? Especially when you're going through this. I know when I went through cancer, my treatment and the recovery of it, there's no way I even felt like eating a lot of the time. So it was really important to have really beautiful food to eat that made me feel nourished. It's really interesting. I'll tell you, when I came out of my surgery, so I had this huge double mastectomy. When I came out of that surgery, I had a piece of skin that was the color of my top. So it was black. It had died. And I was told it was really normal. So what they said was, you'll go away, recover. When you come back, we'll just go and do a graft. And we'll just take some skin off your thigh and we'll fix it up. So don't stress about it too much. Yeah. And I said to my surgeon, would you mind if I go home and I do a lot to fix it, And he goes, you can't, it won't fix, it's dead. And I went, yeah, watch this. So I went home Now, I did a lot of meditation or prayer, so meditation and prayer, so having those moments of visualization of the blood vessels coming back into it. And then I ate a whole food plant-based diet, and I pretty much lived on soups and rice and steamed vegetables is pretty much what I lived on for quite a few weeks. And lo and behold, I went back, and sure enough, I'd turned it pink again.
Oh, good. Oh,
yeah. My doctor turned to me, my surgeon turns to me, and he goes, "Must be the bloody way you eat." And I went, "Yeah, and my meditation."
Well, something for them to take up, like take it on board and help other people with that too.
That's right. So so it's an interesting journey, and I think that my message to people today is that it doesn't make when you go like your experience, Cindy, when you went to the clinic and they said, "Here, have a cookie or have some ice cream," intuitively you're going, "Oh, I don't think I should be doing that."
No. Yeah.
Right. Intuitively, it's telling your body's saying, "Yeah, not really right." I think we need to listen to that, and we actually need to take control, because we lose so much control when we've got cancer.
Yes.
You need to take control and go, "You know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to nourish my body using whole foods from plants." And run with that.
Best advice. Tune into your body's wisdom and eat clean, eat well.
And eat clean. Yeah. You've got enough going on. You don't need to add any fuel to its fire.
Exactly.
So that's my advice.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Cathy.
You're welcome.
I will put your website on this video and in the notes below as well. So if anyone wants to find you and work with you, I would highly recommend it. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure chatting.
You're welcome. Thank you, Cindy, for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us today on Rethinking Cancer. I hope this episode has lifted your spirits. Come and join us again for more inspirational cancer thriver stories, expert interviews, and strategies to live your best life. Who knows, maybe it could be your story next. I'm Cindy Scott. Until we meet again.